Let's get some business news for you now. Kate Moody is with us in the studio. And Kate, Europe's biggest infrastructure project is back on track. Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, is throwing his weight behind a new railway line.
Yeah, absolutely. A high-speed rail line known as the HS2 line. It's set to link London to cities in central and northern England, cutting travel times in half. Work is slated to begin in April after Boris Johnson's cabinet gave that green light. But the project has proved hugely controversial. Its budget has already doubled, and environmental groups worry that wildlife and woodlands will be destroyed. Alison Sargent reports.
Prime Minister.
Thank you.
It's full speed ahead for the UK's high-speed rail.
The Cabinet has given high-speed rail the green signal. As everybody knows, the costs forecasts have exploded. But poor management to date has not detracted, in my view, from the fundamental value of the project.
Approved in 2012 under Prime Minister David Cameron, the high-speed rail scheme known as HS2 isn't set to be completed until as late as 2040. It would first connect London to Birmingham in central England before splitting in two and heading to Manchester in the west and Leeds in the east. The project is meant to bring the UK's old and crowded rail network to the level of countries like France and Spain, but predicted costs have nearly doubled to £106 billion, or over €125 billion. Boosting infrastructure spending in the north of England was one of Johnson's campaign promises, but Conservative lawmakers are worried about spiralling costs and the impact on constituencies cut through by the route, making HS2 a rare source of division for the ruling party.
Can I urge my right honourable friend, and indeed anybody that seeks to celebrate the HS2 decision, to keep central in their mind the blight that it will bring to communities up and down the route, not just on the landscape, but people's lives.
The project is also opposed by environmental activists, who say the route would cut through over 100 ancient woodlands, resulting in the largest single act of deforestation in Britain since World War I.
The British economy stalled in the final 3 months of last year as Brexit uncertainty weighed on businesses. The Office for National Statistics registered zero growth for the fourth quarter, bringing overall GDP expansion for 2019 to a slightly better than expected 1.4%. Manufacturing contracted for the third quarter in a row, with the car industry among the hardest hit. The services sector, which accounts for about 3/4 of the economy, grew just 0.1%. But analysts say initial figures show a slight uptick for the beginning of 2020, with consumer confidence on the rise. Meanwhile, European officials have set a hard line ahead of trade talks with the UK, suggesting they won't automatically grant an equivalence deal to British financial firms after the Brexit transition period is over. The British government is seeking stable access to the European market from the end of this year, when that transition period will run out. The government's still saying, though, it's unwilling to accept the EU rulebook. But top negotiator Michel Barnier told the European Parliament on Tuesday that his counterparts should not kid themselves. Take a listen.
Brexit cannot be business as usual. Brexit means that British financial services are losing their financial passports. There is no mutual recognition. Brexit means that in all circumstances, we will impose controls on all goods entering the single market from the 1st of January, as we do with all third countries all over the world.
Separately, Cabinet Minister Michael Gove has warned that border checks are inevitable after that transition period. The British Retail Consortium has now warned that that could lead to a shortage of fresh food if staff and infrastructure aren't upgraded along the channel. Let's check in on the day's trading action now. The major European indices closed higher. The DAX gaining nearly 1%. The CAC 40 about 2/3 there. The travel sector led gains, up nearly 2% across Europe. It's been a more muted session for Wall Street so far. The Dow Jones pulling back from a new record high to trade just above the flat line there. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ also trading below their new records, which they reached at the close of trade on Monday. A judge in New York has ordered the approval of the $59 billion mega merger of mobile operators Sprint and T-Mobile. The announcement has sent their shares soaring. Sprint up an eye-watering 72% there, T-Mobile up about 11%. The deal was first announced nearly 2 years ago, but it's been opposed by states, including New York and California, which which argue it will result in higher prices and poorer service for consumers. The judge rejected that argument, agreeing that Sprint was struggling to compete against its major competitors, that's T-Mobile and the larger Verizon and AT&T. The U.S. Justice Department has already given the go-ahead, and the takeover could now close as early as April. The Singapore Air Show has opened as planned, despite fears over the spread of the coronavirus. Many participants canceled their trips to the event, but tens of thousands of people are still expected to attend. The organizers have told industry officials to avoid handshakes in an effort to limit contact, which could transfer the virus. Instead, they've suggested bowing or waving as an alternative form of greeting.